Who was I before coming to SLU? I was very shy, and I'm still very shy. I didn't really know who I was.
I guess for middle school and high school, just growing up, I was just very sheltered. You know, just strict curfew, strict parents, didn't really interact with people much. So definitely when I came to college, it was definitely like a whole new experience for me.
I was pretty extroverted then too, like towards just in high school in general, because I did like basketball and theater, like that like Troy Bolton-esque kind of like stuff from High School Musical. Yeah, that was me.
I guess in middle school and high school, I was a lot more timid. You'd say I was a lot more shy, a little bit quiet. A little bit of a contrast of what you think of me right now. I still talk to people, I still had friends, I still had people I was close to, but still kind of like reserved and to myself for the most part. It wasn't until maybe junior, senior year of high school where like, that's the point where people start to get more sense of themselves. I definitely relate to that. I had a lot more leadership roles during those years. Definitely found out a little bit about who I was. And I really took that momentum going into college as well. Found things that I wasn't really used to. Tried to experiment a little bit out of my element, out of the box. Joined dance groups, joined cultural groups. So yeah, growing up I wasn't too cultural as a Filipino.
Yeah, before I came to SLU, as you mentioned, I had a bowl cut, and then again, I did freshman year too, so But yeah, so I was a lot quieter, I think. I didn't really like hang out with friends as much, and I was a lot more introverted, and yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd like find anyone that I was similar to at SLU besides like the people that I already knew that were coming here, like Kevin.
So before college, I actually went to the school called IMSA in Illinois, and it was a boarding school. I was like mega nerdy, like really nerdy. All I ever did was homework and mess around and play video games. So I like wasn't social at all by any means, and I didn't do anything or get involved. Every night was like an endless sleepover. So when I came to college, I was really nervous about making new friends, especially because I was living with people from my high school again. I was like rooming with people that I lived with before. And I was afraid to put myself out there, but there were some upperclassmen on my floor who really reached out to me and had me come to AAA meetings, and it helped me find my place at SLU, like where I belonged, how I fit in. It became home. It became the people that I stayed friends with all 4 years, regardless or not if I was even able to go to AAA events. They ended up being my friends who I knew I could always count on. The community of AAA is what helped me define my own personality and really come out of my shell. So I think that I'm like ever grateful for that, and that's why I ended up becoming so involved in like keyboard and stuff the first couple years. Really wish I could have this year, but I just didn't have the opportunity to. But AAA means so much to me because of that. It's impacted my entire college experience, and I think that like there's no way I could repay that in full.
Honestly, it helps that you have a sibling here. So Sally, if you guys don't know, my sister, she graduated last year, and then she was just like, come join AAA, you can like meet a bunch of like Asians, and like my high school didn't really have a lot of Asians, so that was like definitely a new experience for me because I've never been exposed to like a massive group of Asians. So that was weird, but it was like cool because I was able to like connect to them on a more personal level. Like you understand like, oh, we got like just like the typical like Asian stereotypes, and then like I don't know, it was just more, it was easier to relate. Just exposure of like a bunch of other Asians too that I just didn't really have before when I was in high school. Because there was only like 3 Asians in my high school, and we didn't even talk to each other. So when I got to AAA, I was like, oh, we got like a lot of like things similar. So it was just different, but it was like a good experience.
So I like initially as a freshman, I didn't know if I wanted to join AAA because it's a cultural organization. But I was like, you know what? No, be more social. Join a organization, right? And I just remember going to a lot of these events, and I like socializing, but I get drained really easily. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll like go back home, right? And if you go back home early in a AAA event, it's easy to feel excluded because you're not like talking to people, right? So I was like, maybe if I join eBoard, I'll like force myself to stay for events longer, and also like I like planning and helping out. So like my favorite parts when I was a freshman is when David Chung, who's my big, he would be like, hey, do you want to help like serve food? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And I would be serving food. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like in a lot of these events, I like having a place or a reason to be there, and I thought that being on board will give me that, I guess, incentive and essentially push me out of my comfort zone just to like meet new people and actually talk to people. And I think it definitely did help me a lot because I became super involved my like junior year when I had like this role, and like I became more comfortable with who I am and like what AAA is.
I heard about AAA at Club Fair, I'm pretty sure. And I guess I was just looking for like my group of Asians kind of, because I'm from California, so there was like, there's no Asians. So I went to find it. Actually, I think there was like a Taiwanese student association before, but I guess they like only had like 3 people, so they disbanded. And so, AAA.
So I would say I was very disengaged. I wasn't particularly involved in anything very heavily, right? But however, I think one thing that changed me in college because that I joined AAA. Now I'm more excited for a lot of the things, I feel like there's a purpose to everything that I do.
So I heard that there was like a club thing going on in the clock tower, but I was only ever interested in going to Xavier from my class, from my bio class. And so I just I was actually kind of scared of having any social interaction. So I was like really keeping my head down and like really wanting to just pass by the clock tower. But then I remember David Chung literally grabbed my arm and pulled me to the AAA table, and he was like, hey, you're Asian. Where are you from? And then he found out that I was from California. He's like, oh shoot, I'm from California. And he's like, George is from California. And Alex was like, I'm from California. Not only am I Californian, I'm also Korean. And then so I was just like, holy shoot. And I was actually at a pretty like dark place at that time because I was just like going through the whole like freshman depression, like didn't know anyone. I also had a lot of roommate problems. So to like find that there are people not only from the same place that I was, but like also had the same cultural background was, I don't know, I think that was like the #1 thing that brought me in. I didn't know anything, I wasn't interested at all to like be in any in any clubs or any teams of any sort, because in high school or like growing up, I was only allowed to just study in my room, not even like hang out with friends. So I was never thinking of college being like the social aspects of things. So I did not know there was any AAA or any organization. I never looked into anything like that. Like I only came here saying like, oh, gotta be a med scholar, gotta study and get to med school. Yeah, that's all I ever thought about.
This story, I wasn't really big on joining organizations, honestly. I didn't feel like it. Well, I was still the old me before I joined AAA. I didn't really trying to find a place for myself because like it's a waste of time. Okay, eventually people figure out that I'm just different from them and didn't really connect to anyone. So my really thought about college career, I just gonna get through the 4 years, doing the best I can, get a degree, and then go to maybe med school and be a doctor or do engineering if I can't be a doctor. So that's what I really thought of. My thought about college at the time. Didn't think much about what I'm gonna be doing at college or how I'm gonna be spending my time growing as a person. Mostly it's about academic in general.